Hello everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today for the second refresh message this week. It's Thursday, October 8th. I'm Pastor Steve Green. My wife Penny and I pastor here at Brighton Word of Faith Church, and we're talking about drawing near with the true heart. In verse 6 of chapter 8 of Hebrews, where we left off yesterday, but now he has obtained a more excellent ministry, Jesus has, inasmuch as he is also mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. This more excellent ministry that Jesus has is now that he is a mediator, meaning that it's his role, it's his function to make the new covenant work for you and I. He's a servant for us in order to help us achieve everything that is promised to us in this covenant, in this relational agreement. Let's read in chapter 7 now of Hebrews, backing up a chapter, verses 17 to 19. For he, this is God speaking, God the Father speaking to Jesus when Jesus was exalted to his right hand after his resurrection. For he testifies, you are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek, referring to this exact ministry we're talking about, this better ministry. In verse 18, for on the one hand, that's an important phrase, on the one hand, there is an annulling of the former commandment because of its weakness and unprofitableness. Verse 19, for the law made nothing perfect. On the other hand, there is the bringing in of a better hope through which we draw near to God. So we have Jesus as our high priest, and this passage in verse 18 says that the previous commandment, which was the former covenant, it was the law of Moses, has now been annulled. The word annulled refers to something being abolished or rejected. So this is a very strong word. It's the reason that it has been annulled, this would be the 613 commands that are contained within the law of Moses. The reason it's annulled is because of its weakness and unprofitableness. Let's go back to Romans 7 just to get a broader look at this subject. In verse 12, Paul is discussing the law of Moses. He says, therefore the law is holy, and the commandment is holy and just and good. So there is nothing wrong with the law of Moses, according to Paul, in Romans 7 and verse 12. And obviously that's true. A few verses later, in chapter 8, the beginning of verse 3, for what the law could not do in that it was weak through the flesh. So there was things, the law was good and holy and just, but there were things it couldn't do. The weakness was in the flesh, human flesh being unable to perform what the law said. So that would make it appear as if the law is perfectly fine. However, the writer of Hebrews is now saying, well, God actually needs a law that can work. It's something that will, in our case, we've been reading about Jesus being the mediator. There's a better covenant. Jesus is the mediator. He makes the covenant work. This is something that was lacking in the old covenant. And in that, although on one hand there was nothing wrong with the law of Moses, on the other hand, because it did not produce the right behaviors in us, it did not produce righteousness and holiness in us, there was a problem with the law. And that's why the writer of Hebrews says it was weak and unprofitable, because it says in verse 19, it made nothing perfect. All right. Continuing then, so on the one hand, we have the law of Moses, which is weak and unprofitable, in that it made nothing perfect. On the other hand, if the first covenant is one that did not work, what do you suppose we have on the other hand? Obviously, it's going to be a covenant, a new covenant that does work, one that has a better hope. The better hope being that we would be made perfect, that we would become people better than what we are according to our own flesh or according to our own strength. One reason, obviously, that it is a better covenant is it has a mediator making it work. With this covenant, we have a better hope. It's the hope of being made perfect. And through this covenant, we can draw near to God. We'll pick up again tomorrow. Please join us.